On the phone, we have a gentleman who played back in the 1950s and 60s in the NFL. He played against our beloved Chicago Bears in the 1963 championship game, but we won't talk much about that. Pro Football Hall of Famer, A Tittle. How you doing, Y.A.?
I'm doing fine.
I see you went to college at LSU, but you were born in Texas. How did that happen?
Well, Texas, my hometown is Marshall, Texas, and that's about 20 miles from the Louisiana border. And so I got a scholarship to go to LSU, and so I chose LSU. And my brother had lived in Louisiana. That's why I went down there.
So none of the Texas schools came after you?
Yes, they did. I had scholarship to go to University of Texas and Rice and TCU. And I had all the schools, but anyway, my brother lived in New Orleans, and so LSU, they sort of hog-tied me, I guess. But it was a good decision, I think.
Who was the coach at LSU back then?
Bernie Moore.
What was it like playing for him?
We had a good team because we went to the Cotton Bowl in 1946, and that was we played against Arkansas in the Cotton Bowl, and we had good teams at LSU. We beat Alabama and all the Southeastern Conference schools, but we had good teams, and I enjoyed it a lot.
You played in that Cotton Bowl against Arkansas, and you were the most valuable player.
Yeah, well, yes. Score was
scoreless tie.
Nothing.
Right.
Not too big an honor to not even score a point and be the most valuable player.
Didn't score any points, but you moved up and down the field pretty easily. You had a significant advantage in.
Oh yes, I think we made 19 first downs. Arkansas made 2, something like that. And it was on ice. It was an ice field. Played on ice. We played in tennis shoes. we didn't have any. We just played in tennis shoes because we couldn't stand up in cleats. And but we couldn't score until we got down around the 25-30 yard line, and it was solid ice, and nobody could stand up. So, and we couldn't get across the goal line, and anyway, it was nothing.
How did you throw the ball? The ball had to be slippery as hell.
But it was. But you learn how to, on a day like that, you learn how to palm the ball a little bit. And I can tell you a little secret, but I won't. No, I'll tell you. I took thumbtacks. I followed them down real low, and then put them on my thumb and my fingertips, and then I wrapped adhesive tape around it, and then I did adhesive tape around. It was illegal to do that, but anyway, at least I could puncture the ball with the thumbtacks a little bit and get a little friction. It was against the rules, but I got away with it because I put adhesive tape around all my other fingers on my left hand, so that the referee wouldn't be suspicious. Anyway, I'm telling you.
I think the statute of limitations is up. I think you're safe.
But I'll tell you a little secret. I use those thumbtacks to my advantage. When I say that I could hold the ball pretty good, those thumbtacks. But I also, if I had some of those big tackles would hit me and twist my arm and pinch me and do everything else, I had my weapon too. I had these thumbtacks. I could put my hand up under their helmet and sort of run my hand up and down and say, you're doing a great job, I guess. I just scratched the heck out of them. They didn't know that until the game was over and they saw it out because it was so cold that they didn't feel that. Anyway, I shouldn't tell you that. But, I got my revenge.
Now, you got drafted by the Baltimore Colts of the All-America Football Conference in '48.
By Baltimore, right.
So what was going to Baltimore like?
Well, it was the All-American Conference, and I played under a legendary football person. A guy named Cecil Isbell was the coach, and he was a passing type coach. I mean, he had been an All-American at Purdue, I think, something like that. And so he believed in the forward pass, and he encouraged me to become a good player and taught me some of the skills about the forward passing game.
Art Donovan, was he your teammate in Baltimore for a year?
He was my teammate. Big Artie. Tough. Mean. He just tough, mean, big talker.
And then the Colts and the league became defunct, and you ended up on the West Coast with the San Francisco 49ers.
Baltimore folded financially, collapsed financially, and we were redrafted. We were put in the Baltimore players were put in the college pool, and we were redrafted like college players, and I was San Francisco's first draft choice to come out here.
Had you ever been out to San Francisco?
No, I've not been here. And played here 10 years and got married and raised a family and went into business, and I'm still here and I like it.
And you played behind Frankie Albert the first couple of years.
First couple of years I played against Frankie Albert. Frankie Albert, he was a great. He was good for me because he sort of gave me some of the skills of quarterbacking. I mean, he was a very confident person. He was only I don't want to be critical of him. He was not a great thrower. But he could run around, sort of a run around quarterback. But he had good knowledge of the game and good leadership qualities. And I learned a lot from Frank. He was a good friend.
He was credited for inventing the bootleg.
Pretty much so. He had Penn-Talkinson, I guess.
But then you get credit for inventing the alley-oop pass with R.C. Owens.
Well, that wasn't an invention. That was just, if you can't find anybody open, just throw it up there and let R.C. jump for it. That didn't take very much skill.
Well, you know, for them to be completions rather than interceptions, there had to be a certain amount of skill involved.
Well, R.C. had he was a basketball player in college, and he could really jump. A rebound, getting the ball, get up high in the air. And I was trying to throw the ball away one day, trying to throw it out of the end zone, and I threw it too short. R.C. jumped up in front of about 5 people and pulled it down, and I gave him a lot of credit for it, and he said, I can do it every time. No. So I said, okay, I'll do it again sometime. So I started doing it, and if it was third down and long yardage, and if you couldn't think of anything to call, just I got in the huddle, I'd say, okay, rip, R.C. alley-oop. That was the name of the play, R.C. alley-oop. And that took a lot of skill. You could do it. I could do it. My wife could do it. Just throw the ball high up in the air and let R.C. jump for it. And the more people that got under the ball to intercept it, R.C. liked it that way because they bumped into each other. And he'd swoop in between just at the last second as it would come down from the air, and they were just waiting for this duck to gobble it up, and he'd swoop in between them and real high, and he'd come down with a big high percentage.
Did you work on that in practice against Jack Christensen and Jim David in the backfield?
Well, we had Jack Christensen and Jim David too. You're right. You're bringing back a lot of old-time names. Wow.
It's amazing. Hugh McElhaney said the alley-oop was invented because you underthrew R.C. Owens.
Well, that's true. Well, you purposely. And R.C. said he liked the ball to wobble a little bit so he could judge it better. So he didn't want a tight spiral. He wanted to wobble. Well, I didn't want to throw a wobble because, you know, you've been proud of your ability to throw the ball with a tight spiral and things like that. It was pretty. But anyway, after he came down with about 3 or 4 alley-oops, I learned how to throw a nice wobble.
After a while in San Francisco, you get traded to the New York Giants.
Yes.
What went through your head then, going from one coast to the next?
Well, I had to make a decision as to whether I was going to quit playing. I'd already played a long time in football before when I was traded, and then I had a decision to make as to whether maybe I should just retire because I was married and had a young family, and but my wife's mother said she'd keep the children when I went back there to training camp and help out with my 2 young children at that time, and that made it possible for me to go back and play some more.
When you were in San Francisco, you were part of the $1 million backfield. What was that like?
Well, that was pretty good because I didn't have to worry about every play I called would work because they were all so great. My only problem with the $1 million backfield was keeping track of who carried the ball 3 times and 4 times, and I tried to make it even so that nobody get mad at everybody or me. And because I had McElhinney, Joe Perry, and John Henry Johnson, man, they were something else.
Yeah, I would think the toughest part is keeping everybody happy with only one football and all the talent that you had back there.
Yeah.
Did any of those guys ever get upset with you?
No, because I tried to keep it even. I mean, it came to my mind and said, now Joe's carried it, but Joe Perry carried it most of the time because he had a lot of stamina. McElhinney was never in condition too much. I mean, he couldn't carry the ball like Joe Perry. I mean, as many times as Joe Perry. And so it worked out fine. McElhinney was a run-around type of guy. I mean, he'd run around right in, change his mind, go back to the left, back to the right. He didn't want to carry the ball 25 times a game like Joe did. But he couldn't because he was too exhausted, I guess.
It had to be hard on you because by handing the ball off to those 3 running backs, you didn't have that much time to pass the ball.
Well, I know, yeah. I was a little bit jealous of him. But listen, I was a quarterback, and my job was to win the games. And if we could win the game with me throwing 2 passes, that's fine. It didn't make any difference to me. All I wanted to do was just win. And with Joe Perry, Hugh McElhinney, and John Henry Johnson, boy, I couldn't make too many mistakes. And I'd throw the ball to them. You know, part of the time, the short passes, I'd throw to McElhinney on swing passes, and John Henry, and so I had an opportunity to throw short and gain a lot of yards by hitting these great runners on passes.
Did you enjoy playing for Red Hickey, the coach at San Francisco?
I'd say so, yes. But put it this way. I didn't at the time because he was a tough guy. But later I learned to appreciate what he gave. He was a good football coach. He had good talent and good skills. He knew a lot about the game, and he was a demanding type of person. He wasn't popular with the players, some of them, at the time, but we learned to appreciate his talents.
When you got traded to the Giants for Lou Corleone, Lou said, I'm getting traded for A Tittle. He's a 42-year-old quarterback. How did you feel?
Well, I mean, going to New York was an opportunity for me. My wife wanted me to go there because she wanted to go to New York and go to stage shows. That's one of the reasons she wanted me to go. It was the best thing that ever happened in my career. I I got recognition from the New York papers, the largest press in the world, in entertainment industry, and so that was and we had good teams back there, and we won, the Eastern Conference 4 or 5 times in a row, and that was a great break for me, I think.
Well, and you went from someplace in San Francisco where John Brody was trying to take over to going to the Giants, where you had a chance to be the number 1 guy again. That had to be gratifying, I would think, know that somebody does want you.
Well, you said this. I didn't say this. I didn't say I went back there to be number 1. I didn't say. I didn't say that I wouldn't be number 1 here. Enough said. I mean, what I'm saying is that I'm not sure John Brody would beat me out. So that's what I'm really trying to say.
Okay.
I'm joking. I'm not trying to make a case about that.
No, you were both great quarterbacks. You just had more experience.
He was a great quarterback. There's no question. He had a good arm and good knowledge of the game, and he turned out to be a great pro.
He was probably a better golfer than a quarterback.
Well, he was good at both, I think. He was a great golfer, but there was a rivalry. When you have 2 quarterbacks that are equal in talent, there's going to be rivalries, and there's going to be choosing up sides on the teammates. Pulling for one guy and somebody pulling for the other guy, and it did create a problem with the team. Some of them were Tittle fans, some of them were Brody fans. I mean, teammates, and it was not a healthy thing. It was okay, but not the way it should be.
And the Giants let you pass the ball more. I mean, you had 36 touchdown passes in 63. I see you threw 86 touchdowns in a 3-year period.
Well, I don't know. I didn't. You have the record book there. I don't know. I know I had great years in New York, and I know that when I came back to San Francisco to play the 49ers after 2 years after being traded, boy, I turned it on them. I mean, I had my big day.
Well, when you went to New York, you were sort of the new kid on the block. Charlie Connerly had been there for a while. He was 40 years old.
Yeah.
Did he welcome you with open arms?
Not at first, but we later became good friends. And his wife and my wife were very, very close friends. And after Charlie's retirement, we became good friends. And I saw him, and he lived in Mississippi. And he did not take me getting the job. He didn't hold any anger toward me, to his credit.
Was your best game as a pro when you threw the 7 touchdown passes against the Reds?
Oh, I think so. Yeah, I threw for 7 touchdown passes. And, I forget how many yards, but it was I think probably the best day I had in pro football. I didn't have any secret. I had some great receivers. I just kept throwing, and I wasn't shooting for the record. In fact, I never even knew I had broken the record until after the game was over, and they told me I'd broken the record. Because we would score and they would score, and then we would score again, and then they would come back, and we thought we'd get ahead, but they'd come back again, and so I had to keep throwing, so I ended up breaking the records accidentally.
With all the talents that the Giants had, did you try, like the $1 million backfield, did you try to keep everybody happy there, or were you able to concentrate more on the better receivers?
Well, in San Francisco, I had the $1 million backfield. I had Joe Perry, John Henry Johnson, Hugh McElhenney, and they were all great. And I didn't like being the quarterback in a way because I had to keep count of, try to keep them happy. I mean, John Henry carried the ball 10 times. I got to make sure McElhenney's got 10 times, and Joe Perry, and well, I'm joking a little bit, but it was a little bit more of a problem because they were all, I won't say prima donnas, but they were very proud of their talents, and they wanted to run the ball, and so it's great to have that problem.
But in New York, you had Frank Gifford, and he's kind of a prima donna. You probably had to keep him happy.
Well, I had to keep him happy, but he also played wide receiver some of the time. And I had Frank Gifford, and I had Kyle Rote. He was a great player. Alex Webster was a good player, but not like the $1 million backfield. John Henry Johnson, Joe Perry, Hugh McElhenney, they were never three running backs on the same team ever. I don't think in the history of pro football had three running backs in that caliber.
What was it like in practice with the Giants going up against people like Sam Huff and Andy Robustelli?
What do you mean in practice?
When you would practice it, did the first offense go against the first defense?
Yeah, but we didn't scrimmage that much. You know, you don't once the season starts, you don't have knockdown scrimmages too much because you don't want to get any of the ball players hurt. But during training camp we scrimmage. I mean, we had all out game type scrimmages, and it was. But then we had Sam Huff, Robustelli, and Jim Cabbage, and Rosie Greer. They were all on that defense. All the stars were defensive players.
You went to 3 championships in 61, 2, and 3, and you guys lost each one of them. Was there a reason?
Why do you have to remind me? I don't know any reason, except I do know this, that the 3 games the games that we played, championship games, the field was always, should not have been played on. It was ice and snow. Ice, and more ice. And from a quarterback standpoint, a team that depended on the forward pass a lot, it was impossible to gain advantage because you couldn't hold on to the football. At least you couldn't really throw the ball. You had to sort of sidearm it and sling it because the ball was frozen. I'm not trying to make an excuse. I'm very disappointed that I didn't have any championship winning games, but at least I got there many times. That's more than some quarterbacks could say.
Definitely. How did you come to wear uniform jersey number 14?
I had 64 at first. When they changed, when we used to have our numbers were in the quarterbacks were in the 60s, and so therefore, like Frankie Albert was number 63, and he was 13, but he was originally 63, and I was 64, and when they changed to go to the teens for quarterbacks, then I became 14. But I was originally 64.
Everybody remembers you for that picture where you're kneeling down with your head bleeding. What was that game like?
Well, I don't remember. Well, I mean, what I was feeling then because I wasn't. I was out. I didn't know where I was. There was a game that we played in Chicago. I think the score was 0-0. I'm not sure. No one could score on ice and snow field. And but anyway, I got knocked cuckoo, and that's a famous picture that everybody sees. They don't see my winning touchdown passes. They just see me sitting there like I'm praying to the good Lord.
Did you have a favorite receiver to throw to during your career?
Well, yes, I did. In San Francisco, I had Bill Schaffner and Frank Gifford to throw to. Frank Gifford was a running back, and I threw a lot of passes to him when he would come out of the backfield. I mean, running, catching the ball. And then Bill Schaffner was a flanker and very fast receiver. He was my number one target in New York at first, and San Francisco had a number of guys to throw to. Hugh McElhenny, and I threw it to a lot of backs, running backs out here, because we had Joe Perry, John Henry Johnson, and Hugh McElhenny. They were what they call the $1 million backfield.
But you weren't paid $1 million, though.
No, I'm afraid not.
What was playing for Allie Sherman like?
Very creative coach, sort of ahead of his time with the offensive. Well, he had sometimes some problems getting along with some of the ball players, but to me he was very good to me, and I liked Ellie, and he was. I won't say ahead of his time, but he was very progressive in his thinking. I mean, he believed in throwing the ball, and we did that. And he created a lot of new ideas.
I think part of the problem was that he was coming after they did not hire Vince Lombardi or Tom Landry as coach, and I think a lot of those players wanted one of those guys as their coach.
The old-time players that had played for those coaches you mentioned, there was some I won't say disappointment, but some resentment, I guess. Allie was a new coach and with new ideas, and they were all, a lot of them are Tom Landry players. I mean, they idolized Tom Landry. And they always compared Allie Sherman to Tom Landry. And I didn't play when Tom Landry was there, but so I don't know.
How did you get a role in the movie Any Given Sunday?
Well, I don't know. The producer, I know his name. What was his name?
Oliver Stone.
Oliver Stone. Well, he contacted me, wanted to know would I play a cameo role, and I didn't say too much. I mean, I didn't do too much acting. I did at first. I did a lot of coaching, I believe, in the movie. But then when it got down to the end of these, after the movie became successful, they cut my words out because they paid you residuals on your how much speaking you did. So I didn't. All I did was say, I remember saying, "Send in the kicking team." That's about all I did.
So are you a better actor than Johnny Unitas and Dick Butkus were?
No, I don't know what I said. All I said was send in the kicking team. And that's what it means. That's what acting is. I was a great actress. Yeah, Clark Gable was jealous of me.
How did you know when it was time to retire?
How did I know when it's time to retire? That's a good question. Well, first of all, I played on so many good teams, and so many teams that have won. And for some reason, New York, or Allie Sherman, I don't know whether it's Allie or not, but he traded lots of the players away. And we went from top to bottom in a hurry. And I was 30-some-odd years old, and it wasn't time for me to, start all over again and just sort of recharge the batteries anymore. I already played 17 years, and that was longer than anybody had ever played, and so it was time to quit, I guess. But I tell you the truth, I really wasn't finished. I could still throw better than any of the other quarterbacks they had. Don't quote me on that one, but
but you could have lasted another 2-3 years.
I don't know. I think I could have. I'm not going to get involved in this one because they had a lot of quarterbacks that came along after me. Well, we played what you call X's game, where where the old timers came back and played against the new team.
Mm-hmm.
I came back as an X, an old timer, and I just ripped them apart. I could, a quarterback is not like a running back. I don't have to worry about my legs giving away on me. I don't have to worry about, I didn't have any knees hurt. Nothing was wrong with my knees. Nothing was wrong with anything. My arm was still as strong as ever, and I could still throw a ball 80 yards in the air when I quit. And I could have played longer, but my wife didn't want me to. She thought it was time for me to hang it up. And Sherman had traded a lot of the players away. And so that there wasn't going to be the New York Giants of old. They were rebuilding.
How did you feel when you went in the Hall of Fame?
Well, that's great. One of the great honors of my lifetime. When you're selected as one of the great players since the days of Newt, Rockney, and Don Hudson, and the great players of all time, and you're selected to go in the Hall of Fame, that's a great honor, and there are still not too many quarterbacks in the Hall of Fame. It was a great honor, and still is a great honor to me.
Who do you think the best player you ever saw play was?
The best player?
Yes.
Well, there are many positions in football, not like baseball where everybody gets up to bat and you have a batting average, and you can say, well, you had Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth and Joe DiMaggio, people like that, because they had batting averages. So when you say the best player in football is you've got 11 different positions on offense and 11 positions on defense. So I don't know how to say the greatest running broken field runner would be Hugh McElhenny. If I had to say he was the best broken field runner. I had an opportunity to play with $1 million backfield in San Francisco, and the best workhorse runner was Joe Perry. He was also on the same team. He'd carry the ball 35 times a game, if necessary.
Now, your given name is Yelverton Abraham. Have you always been called Y.A.?
Yes. How would you like to be named Yelverton Abraham?
Well, I figure my parents knew what they were doing when they named me, but
I'm a junior. My dad must have known because that was his name. So anyway, I'm Yelverton Abraham Tittle Jr.
Do you have any sons?
Excuse me?
Do you have any sons?
My sons, yes. They're named Mike and Pat and John.
How come you didn't do that to them?
I didn't give them any Yelverton names. They're Mike, Pat, and John.
So did they call your dad Y.A. or was he Yelverton?
Everybody called me Y.A.
How about your dad? What they call him?
Called him Abe. His name is Yelverton Abraham Tittle.
Okay.
He was called Abe Tittle. I can't imagine them giving me that name. Yelverton Abraham Tittle Jr.
Well, he must have felt that he had to go through life with that, so somebody else ought to have that too.
What was that? There's a song that who's that singer that sings? I grew up and he's a singer. And I grew up and had to be tough. That's why they named him Sue.
A boy named Sue? Johnny Cash.
Johnny Cash. He had a You're up tough and mean and how would you like to be named? Sue.
I think I'd rather be named Y.A.
Well, Joseph Abraham was not my fondest name. So nobody ever knew my name in high school or college. I kept it a secret. I was always just Y.A.